Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. So today we are going to do the next question of our agriculture optional answer writing practice series. जो हमारी एग्रीकल्चर ऑप्शनल आंसर राइटिंग प्रैक्टिस सीरीज चल रही है उसका नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन को आज हम लोग करने वाले हैं. एंड टुडेस क्वेश्चन इज एक्सप्लेन द मेजर कंस्ट्रेंट्स ऑफ ड्राईलैंड एरियाज. ओके. Second part of the question is asking about describe various soil moisture conservation practices, and third part of the question is asking about contingent crop plan in dryland areas for sustaining crop productivity. So this question has been divided into three parts. So the first part is asking about the major constraints of dryland areas, or you can say the major problems of dryland areas. Second part is asking about the various soil moisture conservation practices that can be adopted in these areas. And the third part of the question is asking about the contingent crop plan in these areas. Okay. So this question was asked in the agriculture optional paper of UPSC IFOS examinations, that is Indian Forest Service examinations of 2022. दैट इज 2022 की जो इंडियन फॉरेस्ट सर्विस एग्जामिनेशन सी विच इज कंडक्टेड बाय यूपीएससी उसमें एक क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. सो इट बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस. And when it comes to CSE also, so previously they have asked about dryland farming, they have asked about rainfed farming, they have asked about the soil moisture conservation techniques, they have asked about the contingent crop plan. So all these things have been asked several times previously. काफी बार ये सारे क्वेश्चंस यूपीएससी has asked previously, so it becomes very important for us. So let's see how we can approach this answer. इसलिए क्वेश्चन काफी इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है हमारे लिए, ताकि हम देख पाए कि how we can approach this type of answers. So let's see how we can approach the answer. So you would have heard similar terms. First one is dry farming. You will heard about dryland farming. You would have heard about rainfed farming. So all these are very similar terms. All the in terms of problems, in terms of practices, all are very similar. The problems of all the three areas are similar. The practices we adopt all in all the three areas are similar. But there is a slight difference in the three areas which you should know. The difference is that in terms of rainfall, a slight difference is in the terms of rainfall, and other things such as constraints, soil moisture conservation techniques, all are similar except this rainfall difference. So in dryland farming, the rainfall is less than 75 centimeter. When the rainfall is less than 75 centimeter, then we term it as dry farming, not dryland, sorry, dry farming. And when the rainfall is between 75 centimeter to 115 centimeter, then it is called a dryland farming. जब भी रेनफॉल 75 सेंटीमीटर से कम रहे तो उसको ड्राई फार्मिंग बोलते हैं. जब भी रेनफॉल जो है हमारा 75 से 115 सेंटीमीटर के बीच रहे तो उसे हम लोग ड्राईलैंड फार्मिंग कहते हैं. एंड व्हेन द रेनफॉल इज अबव 115 सेंटीमीटर, then it is termed as rainfed farming. So these are the similar differences that you must know, and that is how you can also define dryland farming. The rainfall between 75 to 115 centimeter, and there are no major irrigation practices followed here. मतलब irrigation की वजह से सुविधाएं नहीं है. No major irrigation infrastructure is there. Irrigation infrastructure is not present in high amount. It is not exclusively present, and they are mostly dependent on the rainfall. Then they are mostly dependent on the monsoon for cultivation of crops. So this is about the dryland farming, or you can say dryland areas. Now let's move to the first part of the question, that is the major constraints of dryland areas. So what would be the major constraints? First one is the water scarcity, that is only 75 to 115 centimeter of water rainfall is available, that is moisture is available. And many crops which require more than 150 centimeter of rainfall, many requires more than 100 centimeter of rainfall, such as the water intensive crops such as sugarcane, such as rice, sugarcane, are very difficult to be cultivated in these areas. So water scarcity is the major problem through which many times crop losses are suffered by farmers. So this is one problem. Secondly, there is a problem of soil degradation and soil desertification. What happens here? You will be easily seeing that there is the problems of overgrazing in these areas, the problems of loss of soil fertility, So these are the common problems which you will be easily able to find in dryland areas. You all heard about jumble ravines. So it is a kind of dryland only. Previously it was used to be dryland, then there was huge amount of soil degradation, huge amount of erosion, and now it has turned into ravines. So soil degradation and desertification, loss of soil fertility is another major problem. Limited vegetation cover, we all know that in such amount of limited forest, limited rainfall, generally you will find here dry deciduous forest, dry deciduous forest, dry grasslands. So the vegetation is very limited here. Okay, the arid conditions, the problems of overgrazing. So these all things lead to very reduced ecosystem services in these areas. Unpredictable rainfall. We all know that the monsoons in our country is in just for 4 months. Most of the rain falls in these 4 months only. More than 90% of rainfall can be seen in these 4 months. So what happens many times, there is unpredictability in the rainfall patterns, unpredictability in the monsoon, and due to the rising climate changes, this unpredictability has been increased. अब वो जो unpredictability वो काफी ज़्यादा हो चुका है, which is creating another major problem. So rainfall, unpredictable rainfall is another major problem. The vulnerability to climate change, other major problems. Heat strokes, heat waves, loss of moisture, and due to this climate change there are rising incidence of pests and diseases. So all these are the major problems of the dryland areas, or you can say major constraints of the dryland areas, which highly affect the agriculture, which highly affect the farming practices in these areas. So these are the major constraints. Now the second part of the question is asking about the soil moisture conservation techniques. What are the conservation techniques which we are going to adopt? First thing, we are going to do mulching. We can easily do mulching. I think in my classes, in my agriculture optional videos and in my static videos also, I think I have discussed mulching hundreds of times. It is so important that in every answer there is some link. Every answer when is compared to soil moisture or soil protection of soil, there is discussion of mulching. So I hope you all know mulching very well. That is applying organic or inorganic materials over the soil, on the top of the soil, to retain soil moisture. So what happens in mulching? Suppose is our land, we will apply some organic materials such as straw, leaves, or other things, or sometimes we will also apply some artificial materials such as plastic mulches are available, paper mulches are available, so that the moisture in the soil is retained. So mulching is one thing we can do. Agroforestry can be done. What happens? Trees, we all know, are very helpful in improving soil structure, because in agroforestry, trees will be planted along with the crops. Agroforestry is agriculture, crops plus forest trees, when both are harvested simultaneously on the same field. And trees improve the soil structure. We all know that trees are very helpful in improving the soil structure. They reduce the runoff, erosion, reduce runoff, they reduce erosion. So all these things relate to the increase of soil moisture and retention of soil moisture in the soil. Retention of soil moisture. The agroforestry is another major practice. Water harvesting can be done. We all know that rainwater harvesting can be done. That is collecting and storing waters. We can dig ponds here. We can focus on watershed management practices. Watershed management practices. And these stored water in such as in ponds, such as in some lakes, such as in some tanks, can be used in the dry periods when there is not so much of water available. This harvested water can be used. Conservation tillage can be practiced, because in conservation tillage there is minimum soil disturbance, and that is why the soil structure is maintained. Okay, there is less disturbance in soil structure, which avoids water loss through evaporation. It avoids high evaporation, and that is why you can conserve some amount of moisture here. Use of macro irrigation techniques such as drip irrigation and other things can be very helpful for the conservation of moisture. So these things can be done. There are other points also which you can add, such as cover cropping can be helpful. Cover cropping can be helpful. cultivation can be done, contour plowing can be done, cultivation in furrows and beds can be done. So all these things can be done which are helpful for soil moisture conservation in the dryland areas. These are the other points which you can add, and there are several points as looking into the question, because the question is already divided into three parts and these questions are generally asked for 20 marks. Generally you will see this question for 20 markers in UPSC CSE, and this was asked in 15 marker in the IUFS exam. So I think 5 points for each section is enough, but if you want to add other points also, so these are the points which you can add. Okay, and if you are wanting to add some other points, please let us know by commenting your extra points. अगर आप कुछ extra points add करना चाह रहे हो तो उसको comment करके हमें जरूर बताओ, so that we can know that you are going in good direction or not, the points you are writing are up to the mark or not. So please do comment the extra points you are going to add. So this was about soil moisture conservation practices. Now third part is asking about the contingent crop plan, which is also known as contingency planning. So what is contingency planning? To prepare ourselves, to plan ourselves for these unpredictable weather events, unpredictable weather events which are very common in dryland areas, and to mitigate the risks, and to mitigate risks. So to mitigate risks which are arising due to these unpredictable events, due to this low moisture, low rainfall availability, low soil moisture availability, we need to do contingency planning. That is what contingency planning is, planning ourselves in advance so that we can mitigate risks in the present times. So that is what contingency planning is. So what we can do in contingency planning? First of all, diversification. If we get dependent on our crops and that crop gets failed, there is some kind of risk, and due to that those risks the crop gets failed, then we are already in 100% loss. But when we go to diversification, we implement 2-3 crops, 1-2-3 crops, we are not focused on single crops, and suppose here one crop fails also, we have other crops which can give us a certain amount of income. So diversification is very important. It also helps to conserve the soil fertility, soil moisture. So we can go into diversification. We can focus on crop rotations, rotating the crops. This will help us to maintain the soil structure, soil fertility. Different crops has different water requirements. Suppose we are growing some millets with pulses and other vegetables. Suppose some vegetables have high water requirement. So what happens? The millets and pulses will have low water requirement. So they will complement each other and the moisture will be efficiently used. So crop rotations is very useful. Soil moisture conservation techniques, we have to focus on it, such as mulching, as we have discussed here, the soil moisture conservation techniques, mulching, agroforestry, water harvesting. We can focus on these things, mulching, agroforestry, water harvesting, so that our moisture is conserved and the risk is mitigated. We need to monitor the weather forecasts. If there is changes in weather, we have to plan according to it. We can have different plans, plan A, plan B, plan C for different types of weather. Suppose we have got to know in advance through the forecast that the rainfall would be around 80 centimeter. So we'll plan crops according to that. And if we have got some forecast in the forecast that the rainfall will be around 120 centimeter or 110 centimeter, so we can plan the crops according to that. So monitoring is very important, especially of weather, so that we can we can plan, we can adopt to certain plans which we have formulated earlier. Emergency response plan should be there, because in dryland areas there are high chances of some emergency happening. Okay, suppose there could be some disease outbreaks, there could be some pest outbreak, there could be sudden slow or sudden lack of rainfall. That is, हो सकता है कभी कभी रेनफॉल आने में देर हो जाए, कभी कभी रेनफॉल जल्दी आ जाए. So there could be some emergency, and we should be ready with the emergency response plan so that we can fight to those emergency. Okay, so these are the things which we need to do. Okay, for mitigating risk. So these are the contingency. These are the things we need to include in our contingency planning. These are the elements of contingency planning which we need to focus in dryland areas, so that our crops productivity could be sustained. So these were the topics, these were the points which we have discussed. I hope you are able to understand all the parts of the question. You are able to understand the major constants, you are able to understand the major soil conservation practices, and you are able to understand the contingency crop plan. So that is all for today, and I hope you understand everything. So please do like, please do share, and please do subscribe. It takes a lot of hard work to make these videos for you on regular basis. रेगुलरली ऐसे वीडियोस को बनाने में काफी हार्ड वर्क लगता है, एंड इफ यू लाइक, इफ यू शेयर, इफ यू सब्सक्राइब, इट मोटिवेट्स अस टू मेक मोर सच वीडियोस फॉर यू. अगर आप लाइक करते हो, शेयर करते हो, सब्सक्राइब करते हो, तो काफी मोटिवेशन मिलता है हमें कि हम और भी ऐसे वीडियो रेगुलरली आप सबके लिए बना पाए. So that is all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you.